Looking at a house from the street after a severe storm blows through Murfreesboro, things can look surprisingly calm. It is incredibly easy to look up at a dry drywall ceiling indoors and assume you dodged a bullet. Most of us wait for a brown water stain to appear before we even think about calling a roofing company. But a roof is designed as a fully sealed assembly. The moment wind or hail fractures that physical seal, the home loses its weather-tight integrity, even if the damage is completely invisible from the driveway. Here we see a meteorologist tracking storm cells. The National Weather Service officially classifies a thunderstorm as severe when it produces hail at least 1 inch in diameter or winds hitting 58 miles per hour. The National Weather Service is the federal agency responsible for providing weather forecasts, warnings, and impact-based decision support for the United States. Look at the size of these hailstones compared to a standard coin. When chunks of ice this large strike a roof, they don't necessarily punch a cartoonish hole straight through the shingles. Instead, they severely bruise the underlying mat and knock away the protective mineral granules. And when winds hit that 58-mile-per-hour threshold, the sheer physical force is enough to snap heavy branches and topple entire trees, causing immediate structural destruction. Even a scraping branch can easily fracture shingles and tear open the underlayment. Once that storm force breaks the roof seal, a clock starts. Leaving a compromised roof exposed for even a few hours allows rain to enter, turning a minor exterior repair into a sprawling interior water loss event. This cross-section shows how wind breaches the roof. A strong gust catches the shingle's edge, breaking its adhesive seal. During the next rain, moisture is driven horizontally beneath the loosened course, traveling sideways along underlayment seams until it drops through an exposed nail penetration. Hail creates a completely different path for water. By knocking off the mineral granules, hail exposes the raw asphalt to ultraviolet degradation. Ultraviolet degradation is the process where sun exposure causes materials to rapidly dry out, become brittle, and lose their waterproofing flexibility. The highest risk areas for these breaches are the transitions: metal valleys that collect heavy runoff, ridge caps, and step flashing near walls are highly susceptible to wind uplift and rapid seal failure. Because water travels horizontally from these hidden breaches, running along rafters and trusses, the wet spot you eventually see on your ceiling is almost never directly underneath the actual hole in the roof. When that water finally breaches the attic cavity, the physical degradation accelerates rapidly. Wooden roof decking begins to swell, insulation becomes saturated and collapses, and the damp environment supports mold. In Murfreesboro, this timeline is dangerously compressed. A roof weakened by a Tuesday afternoon hailstorm often faces a second or third heavy rain cell by Wednesday evening, multiplying the water volume entering the home. Attempting a DIY tarp installation is incredibly risky. A wet, structurally compromised roof is a severe fall hazard, and improper placement often traps water underneath intact shingles or creates tears in previously sound roofing. A professional emergency tarp is entirely different from throwing a plastic sheet over the damage. It is a strictly controlled, temporary waterproofing installation engineered specifically to channel water away from the compromised area. Looking at this top-down diagram, we can see the exact mechanics. The protective material extends well beyond the damaged zone, securely overlapping sound, intact roofing. This allows water to flow smoothly downhill and prevents the wind from lifting the edges. This is active damage containment. It stabilizes the structural envelope of the home, blocking direct rainfall and keeping the interior dry until permanent repairs can commence. The true cost of delaying this containment is entirely hidden inside your walls. A few missing shingles are relatively inexpensive to fix. The massive financial hit arrives when that unchecked water path spreads, ruining insulation, drywall, paint, and electrical wiring. In the first 24 hours after a storm, prioritize personal safety above all else. Once the weather clears, photograph the exterior from the ground, take pictures of any indoor drips, and move your valuables and electronics far away from wet zones. Getting a tarp installed immediately also creates critical structural support for your insurance claim. It explicitly documents the condition of the damage right next to the date of loss, before future rain cycles wash away the evidence. Tennessee insurance guidance specifically mandates that policyholders take reasonable, immediate steps to prevent preventable secondary damage. Secondary damage refers to any additional deterioration, like ruined drywall or mold, that happens because the initial storm damage was left exposed to the elements. A professionally installed tarp strikes the perfect balance. It completely seals out the next rainstorm to satisfy your policy requirements, but it secures the area without destroying the physical evidence, preserving the exact storm pattern for the adjuster's inspection. We have to shift our mental threshold for action. Do not wait for a leaking ceiling to validate the problem. The moment you notice missing shingles, heavy hail, or a branch resting on your roof, you already have a credible sign of exterior compromise. The clock is ticking. Calling trusted Roofing Murfreesboro immediately to install a professional tarp halts the water intrusion, protects your insurance claim, and keeps a manageable roof repair from turning into a massive interior restoration project.